Hello and good morning, everyone. Welcome to FEBE. As always, we'd like to welcome you. I'm Lisa Mackin. I am with Neil Launchnet here on the Lorain County Community College campus. I'm a staff associate, and it's my responsibility to get all these wonderful speakers for you. And as I always like to say, if you have a story to tell, and I'm sure everyone does, I'd like to hear it, and I'm sure everyone else would too. And I'd be glad to schedule you for a speaking engagement here so you can share your expertise with everyone. We'd also like to thank Dunkin' Donuts for our coffee and tea this morning. And we would like to especially thank Katherine Burik, who is here today as our speaker. She has a company called The Interview Doctor that's been in business since 2004. She works with individuals and companies to improve the hiring process. Her expertise comes from 20 years as director or vice president of human resources in both Northeast Ohio and Chicago. She is certified from the Worldwide Association of Business Coaches, and today her talk is going to be about entrepreneurship experience and expertise. So without further ado, Katherine Burik.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here today. What do you think of that picture? What comes into your mind when you see that?
Screensaver.
Sign me up. That was taken at Treasure Key in the Abacos in the Bahamas. It is the most beautiful beach in the world, in my opinion. And this represents my vision of entrepreneurship, because I took that picture a couple of years ago. We go there, we've been there about 3 or 4 times, and I work while I travel. Until recently, I lived on a boat. I've had my business since 2004 as the Interview Doctor. I work with individuals and companies who are trying to improve their hiring process. Most of my work takes place on the telephone. And I did that on purpose. So when I look at that picture, I think about what I might have been writing on that day, what I might have been thinking on that day, what client I might have been speaking to. For me, entrepreneurship was an accident. I never intended to be an entrepreneur. I'm an accidental entrepreneur. My parents and my entire family are educators. So right from the very beginning, when I went into business, I was always the black sheep in my family. Because I was in business, I knew nothing about it. Can I get an amen in the corner? Right? I knew nothing about it. It was just a wonderful adventure for me to be in business, in human resources. However, after a bit of time, I kept getting laid off, and many of you might have had that experience, but I know I did. And after a while, human resources started to get really boring for me. So I began my own business in 2004 to the gracious, I'm indebted to graciously to Gene Seashore, who fired me because he didn't like me and I didn't like him. So in his dislike of me, he gave me a bucket of money and I went out and started my own business. So I am an accidental entrepreneur. Couldn't take one more minute of being in corporate America. And perhaps some of you have been there. Has anybody ever had that experience? Yeah, okay, yeah. One more minute and I would have said something that I would have regretted. But from the outside, I can have a wonderful influence on people I might have used to work with in the past, who listen to me better because I'm on the outside. So I constructed my business in this fashion. I would like to share with you just a few ideas about entrepreneurship that come from my experience. On the table, you have a handout. Just 'cause, you gotta have a handout. And I thought, this is something I enjoy doing. And so we have a handout. The first most important point that I want to share with you, most important, who knows, is you have to know what you want. You must have a niche. Now, this is true for anyone. The same characteristics and organization and ideas that are important to entrepreneurs are exactly the same thing that job seekers need to do. Exactly the same thing that people who have careers need to do to manage their careers. Exactly the same things that business owners need to do in order to grow their careers. So there's no magic here. If you don't have a niche, you are all over the place. So when I started in 2004 with the Interview Doctor, I had several businesses that I ran. I did a wellness program that I peddled, that I designed. That was the big seller for a while. And I also did human resource consulting because, that's my expertise. Why wouldn't I? And then I had this little business called the Interview Doctor that a friend wanted me to start because she no longer wanted to coach candidates. She was a recruiter. That's way too much. Way spread too thin. So the closer your niche can be, in my opinion, the better. So now I am only the Interview Doctor. I coach individuals, I coach candidates who are looking for jobs, I coach companies that want to improve their hiring process. That's all I do. Now, occasionally, if one of my colleagues wants to refer a nice little piece of business, like a friend of mine did recently, where I'm going in and coaching a company on how to improve their culture, I could do that. It's a little bit in the same neighborhood, so I'll do it. But if you don't have a niche, you've got a problem. Okay, make sense? So let's look at the third thing, which a couple of you touched on, which is leveraging relationships. Now, we have several people in the room who are marketing folks. But everybody in this room is actually a marketing person. Every single one of us. Because it's the single number one thing that we have to do every day. Now, there's another bullet that we're going to get to about marketing is not selling. But marketing is about, or running our businesses is really about leveraging relationships so that you can grow. So, for example, since I'm in human resource area, I can connect very well with human resource people. Unfortunately, they won't hire me. It's weird. They just don't want to talk to someone. They think everything is fine in the hiring process. Who's been hired? Is it fine? Is it fine? Is the hiring process fine, or is it stinko? It is bad. And so they think it's wonderful. They won't talk to me. So I have to leverage other relationships in order to find people who are the ideal client for me. I know that if I grow my LinkedIn connections by a certain number every month, that I will increase the number of people who see my stuff and they will talk to me and I'll get clients. So the other day, this weekend, I passed 3,600 connections on LinkedIn. That's an important factor for me. I leverage those relationships. I can actually have a conversation with more than half of those people and know them by name. You tell me the name, I'll go look at their profile. I'm like, okay, yeah, this is where I met that person. This is how I know this person. This is the kind of business they need, and so on. Everyone is different. What kinds of relationships are you leveraging in order to grow your business? It takes a long time to leverage these relationships. Sometimes it's the people that you least expect are going to be the deepest well of opportunity. I collect testimonials about my service out on my website. I do everything in my power to help people think that I am a good, qualified person to handle their business, right? Everything I do is focused on how can I have a conversation with someone, because they're not going to understand what I do just by listening to the title. Unfortunately, what I set up 13 years ago, the Interview Doctor, my business is different than that now, so it requires a conversation. So everything I do is designed to establish my credibility so that I can leverage relationships to get referrals, and I highly recommend it. I wrote a book, 3 books. I've got freebies. I feel like that guy on Bob and Tom. I got the books, I got the tapes, I got the CDs, I've got the articles, I got the blogs. Because in my business, I have to leverage relationships with people that I don't know yet in order to get the testimonials, to get the referrals. What I encourage you to do is think about how are you leveraging relationships in your business so that you can get the referrals, so that you can get the right introductions to people. Which social media should you be on so that you're talking to the people who are your potential clients? For me, it's LinkedIn. You've got to figure out where your potential clients hang out. I do a workshop with employers where we draw a picture on big cardboard of what their ideal candidates look like. And you can draw a picture, what do we call that? I forget. Oh, it just went out of my head. An icon, a little picture of your ideal candidate so that you can talk to that person, talk to them wherever they hang out. And then that's how you build relationships with people that you don't know yet, who are your potential clients. Okay? Does that make sense? I'm probably telling you all sorts of stuff that you know already, but this is what resonates for me. The other thing about building relationships, now at this point, I get more of my clients from two sources where they just send me clients who are candidates who are in the need of services. The only way I would have gotten the main one is through LinkedIn, because they were searching on LinkedIn looking for someone like me in Northeast Ohio, and they found my blogs, they found what I'd been writing. So I put myself in front of people who were able to engage me. I encourage you to do that. This is the idea behind digital marketing and using social media to grow your business, is to leverage those relationships. Which gets me to the idea, point number 4, that marketing is not selling. As a human resource person, your stereotypical human resource person actually doesn't really know much about the business. But I was never a stereotypical human resource person. I did know a lot about the business. Running my own business has helped me learn all sorts of things, some of which I didn't want to know, like who in the world wants to do accounting? I don't know. Yeah, there you go, see? Gets us, we're going to talk about that. But one of the areas that I really enjoy is the marketing aspect of it. I love writing. I blog twice a week. Once or twice a week I blog. I've got freebies, I've got tip sheets, I've got all sorts of fun things. I love it. I could spend hours every day writing that kind of content. That doesn't actually get close a sale. I don't close a sale because I wrote a book. This makes candidates think I kind of know what I'm talking about, but it doesn't close the sale. There's no substitute for getting in front of someone and saying, hey, my name's Katherine. How you doing? How you doing? And I help companies and individuals who are trying to improve their hiring process. And then we can get into a conversation about the problems that an individual has with one or another aspect of what it is that I do. So just because you have this great idea and you have wonderful, beautiful marketing pieces, you didn't close the sale yet until you actually talk to someone, shake their hands, and understand their problem and figure out how you get in front of it. So my marketing person had to tell me to stop. She said, stop making stuff. It's okay. We got enough stuff. We'll be fine. So I usually do my marketing stuff creation in Christmas holidays because it helps me relax. But she says, no more. Don't do any more. We have plenty. Because we have to focus on closing deals and building relationships so that people will hire me, because that's the only way we get money, right? That's the only way we get money. Okay? People will pay us. So what I want you to encourage you to think about is, how are you utilizing your various avenues of marketing, and how can you bridge the gap between marketing and actually closing sales, closing deals, because you're helping someone solve a problem. It's the only way they'll hire you. Just because I've spoken at every SHRM's HR meeting in Northeast Ohio, every single one I've spoken to at least once or twice, I don't get any business from those speaking engagements. I get business in other ways. I grow my list by speaking engagements, but I don't get business that way. I only get business by talking to people, explaining what I do, and putting myself in a position to solve their problem. Any questions about that? Okay. Solid? Yeah, I mean, it works. There's another fun fact about business coaches. Coaches. Okay, so who here knows somebody other than me who has the word coach in their name? Okay. 90% of people who have the word coach in their name don't make more than $20,000 a year. 90%. I do. I make more than that. I make a living on it. And I live on a boat. Well, I did until we sold the boat in April, but that's another story. But I live on a boat, and I do my job, and I love my job, and my husband runs the boat, and I write, and I talk to clients on a headset while we're running the boat. But most business coaches who say, I'm an executive coach, yeah, you're right, and you probably make enough to pay the babysitter or something. I don't know. They don't make anything. It's fun that way. So marketing is not selling. Focus. When my marketing person said, Katherine, stop writing tip sheets, that was because when I'm writing tip sheets or writing blogs, and I love writing. I mean, really, I wrote this. I wrote this in 6 weeks. I don't sell anything when I'm doing this kind of stuff. I really don't. So focus is so important. And whoever you have in your life that will help get you back to the place where you need to be, you have to say thank you. You might need to set up someone who helps you focus. My husband, he's like, what are you doing? Are you getting paid for that gig? Did you just help another person for free? And then I had to say, yes, I did. I'm sorry. I won't do it again. Focus. Focus on what is important to help your business grow. Laser focus. So if someone says, hey, Katherine, will you write a handbook for me? It's like, no, I will not write another handbook in my entire life because it doesn't pay. It's not in my niche. I don't like it. I don't want to do it. And it doesn't help me focus on my very, very specific niche. I only help individuals and companies improve their hiring process. All I do. I mean, except for culture, I'll do a little of that. But focus on what is really important. So if you're not focused on that really, really important element, you're not going to close the sale. You're not going to put yourself in front of the right people who are going to buy what you want, because in the end, all you want is for somebody to give you money for what you love to do. Make sense? Okay, cool. Now, the sixth one, this is not a mistake. That 6 is not lined up with everything else. See, I love marketing stuff. I love building these things, okay? That's because there's some aspect of your business that you hate. Okay, what is, mine's accounting, I'm sorry. No offense. God bless you. I don't get it. Really, I don't get it. I'm smart. I don't get it. What aspect of your business do you hate that you wish that you didn't ever have to do? Who wants to share? Yes?
I don't understand IT.
Now,
And I hate it. And I don't want to understand it.
I miss those days when I picked up the phone when I worked in corporate America, send an IT person over to fix my computer. Oh, amen. Who else has one they hate?
Paying taxes.
Oh, paying taxes. Not even just the paying part. It's the writing, it's the creating it. It's like, oh. What else? Who else? Yes.
Bookkeeping.
Oh, I'm sorry. See? Got to go see her. She loves it. What is your name?
Misty.
Misty loves it. Oh my gosh. What about at this table? What's something you absolutely hate?
Billing.
Billing. See, you're in the right spot. What else? What about you? Customer complaints. She hates customer complaints. Okay. How about over here, ma'am? What do you like? What do you hate about anything about your aspect of your business? Networking. Well, that's a little bit complicated. But we're not laughing at you. We're laughing with you. Because I want to get back to the accounting, but I am an introvert. I'm a very shy person. You would never guess it. I do over 50 speaking engagements a year. I speak to groups, I've spoken to groups of hundreds of people. I have no problem with that. But you put me in front of a telephone and tell me to call someone, I would rather scoop dog poop up the front yard than make a cold call. I went to Northwestern University. This is how shy I am. I went to Northwestern University. I graduated with departmental honors. The night before graduation ceremony, there was a big party over at the history department. I know these people. I parked my car. I could not get out of the car. I did not know until I saw my parents at graduation leaning over a balcony, pointing to the book, saying, you won something, because I was so shy I couldn't get out of the parking lot. So to run your own business and dislike networking is not an oxymoron. Does anybody else have that issue? Yeah, it's those shy people in the back. It's like, how do we do that? Oh. Well, there is a way to do it. For me, in my business, LinkedIn is networking for shy people. Because I start conversations, I can talk to anybody as long as I don't have to pick up the phone and call them. Now, once I know them, I'm perfectly capable of picking up the phone and having coffee, you know. Hey, how are you? This is Katherine. Yeah, remember we talked about this? Hey, how about coffee next week? We can extend the conversation. But the idea of having a list and calling people, terrifying. So I don't grow my business that way. That is another aspect of marketing, is not selling. If we really were selling, I would make a list of all the companies that fit in the size category that I want, in the industries that I work with well, and I would call people on the phone and say, hey, I'm Katherine, I do this thing, how's this thing going? And I can't do it, I just can't do it. So everybody has something that they just hate to do. That's the thing to delegate. Because there's always a Misty in the room somewhere who can handle that thing that you hate. I have a bookkeeper who works for me like an hour a month. Just reconcile the checking account, because if it were up to me, I wouldn't do that. I would never do that, which makes the taxes hard, which makes closing the books like, what's that? And so I have a bookkeeper who works for me an hour or so a month. I have a marketing person who works for me 6 to 8 hours a month. And what she does is place things, okay? So we have a calendar, a marketing calendar. Lisa, we have a marketing calendar. We know when stuff's gonna go out. We know when I owe her four articles, blogs, and she puts them where they need to be. It's not that I don't like it, it's that I actually love it, but it's not related to my niche. Every minute that I spend on accounting and marketing, doing the placement in social media, is a minute that I'm not working with a client. It's a minute that's not billable. So start with the items that you really hate, and then move on to the things that take you away from your main focus, your main niche, the main way you make money. And that's a way to clear out more time. I can handle 5 clients a day, 5 hours of client work a day, because there's a little bit of work that goes on beforehand. And I also like to sit on the boat. And so we sometimes drive the boat, and sometimes we go have a drink and relax a little bit, even in the middle of the day. So I can only take 5 clients a day. If I take 1 or 2 of those hours out of the 5 that I would work with clients, and I handle accounting with it, I'm gonna lose money. So focus means that sometimes you have to delegate and start with the stuff that you hate. We have, what kinds of questions do you have for me? My boat, we sold our boat in April. We had a 44-foot cruiser, aft cabin, motor yacht. Gorgeous boat. I could show you pictures of it, but I chose not to. Somebody came by and said, we want to take this Great Loop, which is a trip that we've done. We want that boat, and they gave us more than we paid for it, which never happens, and we sold it. And as a bounty, as a reward for selling the boat, we got to take it from Fort Pierce to Houston. One last trip, 1,200 miles. It was a blast. It was really...
How much did you work during that trip?
During that trip, I had several clients. I had about a client or 2 a day. And I do a lot of writing when the boat's moving, because my husband will say, oh, look at that, and I'll be like this, because the stuff goes from my brain to my fingers, right? And I can look around and yeah. So I did work. I work when we travel. But now we live in an apartment, and I have a desk, and Yeah. Yeah. What other kinds of questions? How about your businesses? Do these in what way do these points resonate with your business? Yes.
100%. My challenge is I'm in a store.
Uh-huh.
I own the store. I have a store manager. My challenge is I own a store. I have a store manager. I come in the store as early in the morning, kind of get started, and I get so easily sidetracked.
Yeah.
I mean, even to the point, and I just made myself a note, even to the point where I walk in the store and I'm like, I need to refold shirts. That is not the best use of my time. So I need to find a way to make sure that my team knows that this is a distraction for me. They need to fix it so that I don't. Because if they can fix it, I can use my time better spent marketing, because that's what I do. I need to do the networking, marketing, going out and meeting people and getting clients so that I can obviously grow the business. That's my challenge, is it's just so distracting. I need to figure out where I can offload some of those distractions.
Any suggestions from the team here? Anybody have any ideas of how to, the microphone is not for listening, it's for the recording. This is being recorded. So.
I work retail, and I would make a list, and I would put it on my desk in the back office, and everybody knew whatever was on that list had to be taken care of, and their job was to, when I wasn't there or when I was doing something else, they needed to go check the list and work on it. So, yeah, anyway.
For other people, not
Right,
just for me.
exactly.
But it also, did you hear the answer? Did you hear that? But it also could be, what's the master list that has to get done? You know, and there are many tools out there for journaling or recording what your goals are for the day. You know, there's some obvious ones, the Covey stuff, but there are other journals. I just use a little notebook, and I have checklists of things that I have to get done. I think in terms of a week, because a day goes by and you're done.
Actually, can I interject real quick? One thing our office at Neo-Launchnet is doing, I don't know how many of you are familiar with the actual setup of our office. We have 2 full-time staff, but the rest of us are all part-time. And because of that, we sometimes don't even see each other because of all the schedules, especially now in the summer. So one of my roles was I found a project management software. There are a lot of free softwares. We happen to find one called FreeCamp. We have an expo, which everyone's invited to our fall expo on November 18th. But it's okay, what do we need to do now to get prepared for this expo, whether it's reserving the room or getting the food trucks we normally have prepared for that. And so what we did is with this FreeCamp, we set it up and we invited everyone's email address. We had the list of to-do items, and we just assigned it to different people, whether it be an intern or one of us who is a staff associate. And it gives us email alerts that things are due, when they're due, things need to be done. And me being the administrator, I can actually see who's done what and have it checked off. This one's called FreeCamp, FREEDCAMP. And you can actually set it up so it looks like sticky notes. So when you have something that's coming up, you can say, oh, I need to do that, and puts it top of mind with someone. So there are free project management software systems that might be helpful because, like I said, some of my colleagues, I don't even see them for most of the week, maybe like an hour once a week. But that way we all are on the same page and getting things completed.
My marketing person uses a tool called Basecamp. I believe that's a fee-based service. She's a virtual assistant. My marketing person is a virtual assistant, and so I never see her. She lives in Nova Scotia, and some of the people they're all over the country that will touch my work in that 6 to 8 hours a month, and they use Basecamp. I suspect it's very similar. There's free services.
Yeah, if you just Google like project management software or other things like that, that might be a tool that's useful. You might find something within that it will fill the niche of what you need without hiring a person.
There was in my never-ending attempt to be better organized, because I'm only pretty well organized, I was missing invoicing. So I would say, oh my gosh, I only made this much this month. What happened? I was tracking it. And so there was one that I was using, Workflow, Pro Workflow. That was a small fee. There was a really small fee per month. And what it did, I don't use it anymore because I got into the nice discipline of you get the client, you put the invoice in, you send out the invoice, you remind them that they didn't pay yet, and to get the pay, you put it in there. So having QuickBooks and having this Pro Workflow that was linked to it helped me put more discipline in. I would never discount the idea that if you have a team of people that are physically located, that a scrap of paper, as she suggests, with the list, it works very well. It works for me. That's how I do it, with lists of everything. Yeah.
So the accountant talking outside of the box, totally. We get ramped up, tax season, it's Saturday morning. What we do to stay focused is we actually blast the radio and we play that song by Pink Floyd called Money. And there's like cash register chinging in the background and stuff. Kathy, try that once. Blast it on your phone and remember that while you're folding clothes, your money's going down the drain.
That's great. That's great. That's great. Whatever it takes. Yes.
I was at a seminar on Monday, and one of the topics was time management. And one of the person was talking about why their teenage kids never make their bed in the morning. You know, that was his task. Every morning, make your bed, and never made it. And the reason why was because the mom would walk in and make it, or the dad, whoever. And then, you know, the kids started making it and did a crappy job. And then the mom or dad would walk in and remake it. So it was good. And so it was the same thing that, you know, they had their task to do, but they didn't do it. So mom and dad did it for them. And then they never did it. And so, like, if your employees have the task of having to make sure the shirts are folded, if they're not folded and they know if you come in and you're coming in on Tuesday, that you're going to fold them when you walk in, so they never have to do it because you're going to do it when you walk in, as opposed to saying, hey, that was your job, you're supposed to do it, and then you just keep walking. And then say, employee, get your job done. So it's almost like, you know, you reinforce not having to do it because when you come in, you're always doing their job that they didn't finish or whatever it might be. So it was actually pretty interesting, that whole psychology of, hey, I don't have to do it because my boss is going to come fix it or do it for me.
It's a classic case
It's hard
of
to do, though.
holding people accountable for the expectations that you set for them. You could set those expectations for yourself if you work alone like me, or you know, I don't touch accounting anymore except for the invoicing and matching pay. I don't, you know, the marketing person says, what do you think of this? And I'll have an opinion, but I'm like, you know what? Whatever you think is best, because these people who handle some of these specialties are really good at it. So hold people accountable for what they need to do. And if they don't do it, after a time, they have walked themselves out of a job. Yeah. What other kinds of questions? What strikes you? Yes.
This spring I hired an assistant, which was fantastic, and it's really addicting to hire people and have people do things that I don't want to do. Anyways, as I'm looking through this and as we've gone through this, it's kind of changed how I think I want to interview in the future, of asking questions that kind of go along with this instead of what skills they might already have. Those are going to be on a resume or something like that. Would you be able to talk about how I might be able to take these things and put them into interview questions?
Absolutely. That's what I'm good at, and we're going to stay in my niche for a minute. So let's say you have a job that's open. Give me the name of a job.
An editor.
An editor. All right. You have in your mind the wonderful outcome that you have in your head when you hire this editor. So what is the wonderful outcome? That's the great thing that happens for your business when you hire the right editor.
So this is the first person that the assistant. The biggest thing was editing and taking that off my plate so that I didn't have to do it. Because like you said, when you do certain things, you're not spending client time. And so when I'm out shooting properties, that's when I'm making money. Doing the editing, I'm not making money. So I hired somebody to start doing that, so that's kind of on the back end of it.
So the wonderful thing that happens is your time is freed up. he or she will probably do potentially a better job at it because that's their specialty. So when they do a better job at it, then your customers are happier, all right? And if your customers are happier, you could make more money. So you got to understand what is the outcome. We begin with the end in mind. So what is the outcome? And then you want to, the step 2 is what kinds of skills are necessary to do a really good job of editing so that your customers are happy? Well, I venture to say, what do you think they would be? What kinds of skills and abilities would that person need to have? Don't think about resumes. Don't think about job descriptions. Just think about that outcome. What do you think?
I mean, detail-oriented is one of the
Got to
biggest.
be detail-oriented? Really? Not colorblind.
Colorblind.
Yeah. No, really. They have to be able to
Yeah.
differentiate colors. They have to be really detail-oriented.
Yeah.
They have to be timely.
And very timely.
Very
yeah, That's
timely.
the biggest thing.
Okay? So then what you want to do is you want to ask candidates questions really only related to whether they're detail-oriented, they get the stuff done on time, how they get their work done. So you want to build questions that ask about that. The 30 frequently asked questions are, what are your strengths and weaknesses? Where do you want to be in 5 years? You know, what would your boss say about you? Everybody knows the answers to get past that. But if you say, tell me about a time when you had to work on a really complex project that had a lot of detail. How did you handle it? What process did you think through? The candidate's going to be sitting there thinking, well, I was prepared to answer about strengths and weaknesses. It's harder to prepare on their part, and they have to come up with a story. Well, there was this time I had this really huge project and we didn't have enough resources to get it done. And so what I did was I used some free software that we had in our company and I divided it into a project and I made sure that at each point I checked in, right? So if you heard that, you would be able to evaluate whether or not that person would be able to achieve that wonderful outcome that you want. So it's all about the questions that you ask. We were talking about this with the massage therapist earlier. You know, it's about the questions that you ask that are related to the outcome that you want. Now, in HR world, we say that the outcome that you want is called the critical success factors, okay? And we also call those skills, we call them competencies. So if you hear people throwing words around like competencies, all that means is knowledge, skills, abilities, and behavior, right? Because you have a unique culture at your place. If you did exactly the same job, it would be a different person potentially because we have 2 different businesses with 2 different personalities. So even a detail-oriented, customer-related, fast worker would potentially be different in one business over the other. So by asking questions that force the candidate to give you a story, you're able to evaluate how well they're going to be able to achieve the critical success factors. The stories always ask, what did they learn? Right? What did they learn? Tell me about a time you had a really huge failure. You learn a lot from that, the way the candidate answers that question. You could that's another one to ask. So consider the behaviors that you're looking for and build your questions around those behaviors. So when I was working with candidates, we would say, in these behavioral questions, if they say, tell me about a time you worked for a boss who was a real jerk, the boss is a real jerk. And they're trying to find a candidate who can work with a real jerk. Believe them. And that's okay. So if you need a detail-oriented, really friendly, positive person, ask how well organized they are. Ask for an example of a time they worked on something that was complicated, that they didn't have enough resources to finish, because nobody ever has enough resources. Does that make sense? Okay. Everybody can do that. In any size business, and nobody does it the way to take advantage of this. So you will get a better quality candidate, make a better hire that's more likely to fit with your organization if you can do that. Okay. Well, at this point, Lisa is hanging out here because it is time to turn it back over to Lisa. So I appreciate your attention, and I will be here.
Thank you so much. I'm sure we all agree that was very informative, and it gives me a lot of food for thought, I'm sure.